Commander Threk stood at the front of the briefing room, all four of his arms crossed in what every species in the galaxy recognized as the universal gesture for, "I am very serious right now." His scales rippled with official importance as he activated the holographic display. Behind him, "Cadets," he began, his voice carrying the weight of someone who had survived 43 Deathworld expeditions and enjoyed telling everyone about it. "You stand on the precipice of your final examination. Before you lies the ultimate test of survival skills, tactical thinking, and the ability to not die horribly." The hologram flickered to life, showing a rotating planet that looked like it had been designed by a committee of sadists. Purple vegetation, red oceans, and storm systems that covered half the visible surface. "This is Karzak 7, Class-9 Deathworld, newly discovered, barely charted." Threk paused for dramatic effect, which he had practiced extensively. "Gravity is 1.3 times galactic standard. The atmosphere contains trace amounts of sulfuric compounds. Native predators include the razor-wing swooper, the acid spitter, and the aptly named, please run very fast beast." A collective shudder ran through the assembled cadets. Pip, a Regelian with 3 eye stalks that were currently all pointed at the hologram in various stages of horror, raised a trembling appendage. "Commander, sir, the survival rate for Class 9 training exercises is only 72%. "Correct," Threk said cheerfully. "Which is why I have never lost a cadet. You will follow my protocols exactly. You will use the equipment provided, and you will under no circumstances attempt to improvise." Questions. From the back of the room came the distinct sound of chewing. Jake Thompson, the only human in the Advanced Survival Tactics course, was working his way through what appeared to be a sandwich of truly impressive dimensions. He raised his hand, still chewing. "Yeah, quick question. Are we allowed to bring marshmallows?" Every eye stalk, antenna, and sensory organ in the room swiveled toward him. "Marshmallows." Threk's translator struggled with the word. "You know, for roasting, over a fire." Jake took another bite of his sandwich. "If we are going to be camping, might as well do it right. This is not camping, Cadet Thompson. This is a survival scenario on a planet that has 17 different ways to kill you before breakfast." "So that is a no on the marshmallows then?" Threk felt a headache forming, which was impressive considering his species did not technically have the biological structures required for headaches. In the 3 months since the human had joined his class, Threk had developed several medically impossible conditions. "No marshmallows. You will carry the standard 70 kilograms of survival equipment, including the emergency shelter, the molecular food processor, the plasma barrier generator, and the 70 kilos? Dude, that is like half my body weight." "Then I suggest you start strength training, cadet." Threk turned back to the hologram. "You will be dropped in teams of 5, scattered across the temperate zone. Your objective is to survive for 72 hours and reach the extraction point. Your equipment contains everything you need if used properly." Jake raised his hand again. "What if we just brought, like, a tarp and some rope? Would save a lot of weight." The silence in the room was deafening. "A tarp," Threk said slowly, "and rope. Yeah, you know, keep it simple. Maybe a good knife, some water purification tablets." Threk's scales shifted to a color that his species used to indicate I am reconsidering my life choices. He had commanded troops in 3 different wars, had stared down a Vorgath battlecruiser without flinching, and had once eaten military rations for 6 months straight. But this human was going to be the end of him. "Cadet Thompson, you will carry the standard equipment like everyone else, or you will fail this course. Am I clear?" "Crystal," Jake said, finishing his sandwich. "Just saying, 70 kilos seems like overkill for a camping trip." Pip leaned over to the cadet next to them, a crystalline being named Shardex. "Is he insane, or does he not understand that we might actually die? With humans?" Shardex whispered back, their facets glinting nervously. "It is usually both." The drop pods screamed through Karzak 7's atmosphere like meteors with anxiety disorders. Inside Pod 7, Pip had their 3 eye stalks squeezed shut, muttering prayers to deities from 4 different religions, just to cover all the bases. The pod hit the ground with a thud that rattled teeth, exoskeletons and crystalline structures alike. The door hissed open, revealing the lovely purple hellscape that was Karzak 7 inches all its glory. "Emergency Protocol Alpha," squeaked Zrin, a insectoid cadet who immediately deployed his inflatable shelter with the kind of panic usually reserved for spaceship hull breaches. The shelter expanded with a whoosh, forming a perfect silver dome complete with air filtration, temperature control, and probably a minibar. Shardex activated their personal shield generator. Pip started frantically assembling the molecular food processor. because apparently the first priority on a Deathworld was ensuring they could turn NutriPaste into slightly better-tasting NutriPaste. "Has anyone seen Thompson?" Pip asked, all three eyes scanning the area. "He went that way." Zrin pointed toward the tree line with one of his 6 arms. "Just walked off with a backpack. Did not even activate his emergency beacon. His backpack looked half empty," Shardex added, their voice humming with concern. "I don't think he brought the standard equipment." "Of course he didn't," Pip groaned. "He probably packed marshmallows." A low rumble echoed through the forest. The kind of rumble that suggested something very large and very hungry had just woken up from a nap and was considering brunch options. What was that? Zrin's shelter door sealed shut with a definitive click. "Probably a razor-wing swooper," Pip said, checking their data pad with trembling appendages. "Says here they are attracted to electromagnetic signatures. Like, oh, I don't know, emergency shelters and shield generators." "You could have mentioned that before I activated mine," Shardex said. The rumble came again, closer this time. Then the bushes parted, and what emerged was definitely not in the training manual, because the training manual didn't have a section labeled, "Oh sweet merciful void, it has that many teeth." The creature was roughly the size of a small shuttle, covered in scales that looked like they could deflect plasma fire, and had a mouth that appeared to be mostly teeth with a creature attached as an afterthought. Its eyes locked onto the cadets with the kind of focus that suggested it had skipped breakfast. "Defensive positions," Pip shrieked, which was difficult to do when all 3 of your eyes were trying to look in different directions at once. Zrin cranked his plasma rifle to maximum. Shardex's shield flared to full power. Pip fumbled for their stun baton, nearly dropping it twice. The creature roared, tensed its massive legs, and prepared to pounce. A rock bounced off its head. Not a boulder. Not some high-tech projectile. A rock. The kind you might find in literally any river on any planet in the galaxy. The creature stopped mid-roar, looking confused in the way that apex predators rarely do. It turned its massive head toward the source of the rock. Jake Thompson stood about 20 meters away, backpack slung over one shoulder, holding another rock. "Hey buddy. Wrong neighborhood. Shoo!" He threw the second rock. It bonked the creature right on its snout. The creature blinked. All 6 of its eyes focused on Jake, calculating threat levels with whatever passed for a brain in its massive skull. Then, in a decision that would baffle xenobiologists for years to come, it huffed, turned around, and lumbered back into the forest. Jake dusted off his hands and walked over to the group like he had just scared off a mildly aggressive squirrel. "You guys okay?" "That was a Karzak Ridge Prowler. They are mostly territorial, not really aggressive unless you activate a bunch of tech in their space. Electromagnetic fields mess with their sensory organs. Makes them cranky." Pip's 3 eye stalks had somehow managed to tie themselves into a knot. "How? How did you know that?" "Read the supplemental xenobiology files Commander Threk attached to the briefing. You know, the optional reading." Jake shrugged. "Also, it is basically the same as dealing with a bear. You look big, make noise, and show you are not prey. Works like 80% of the time." "80%? Shardex's voice went up several octaves. "Yeah, the other 20% you are supposed to play dead or fight back, depending on the species. But this guy had the body language of a territorial herbivore, not a predator. See the eye placement? Wide set. For peripheral vision, not hunting." Pip slowly untangled their eye stalks. A terrible, wonderful, absolutely insane idea was forming. "Thompson, where are you setting up camp?" "Found a nice spot by the river, about half a click west. Good drainage, natural windbreak, access to water." Jake adjusted his backpack. "You guys are welcome to join if you want. Fair warning though, I only packed enough marshmallows for myself." "He actually brought marshmallows," Zrin whispered from inside his shelter. Pip made a decision that they would either never regret or regret for the rest of their very short life. "I'm coming with you." "Are you insane?" Shardex hummed frantically. "Probably," Pip said, grabbing their emergency pack. "But that insane human just scared off a Class-9 predator with a rock, and we have 72 hours to survive on this planet. I am following the crazy person who apparently knows what he is doing." Jake grinned. "Cool. Try to keep up, and maybe turn off all your tech. The wildlife here really doesn't like it." As they walked toward the tree line, Pip glanced back at Shardex and Zrin, who were fortifying their positions with enough equipment to siege a small moon. Yeah, Pip thought. Following the human was definitely the right choice. Probably. Jake's campsite was, by galactic standards, absolutely primitive. By human standards, it was pretty decent for a weekend trip. He had tied a tarp between 4 trees at an angle that somehow created a perfect shelter. Underneath, he had laid out a ground cloth and was currently arranging rocks in a circle. "What are you doing?" Pip asked, watching with the kind of morbid fascination usually reserved for traffic accidents. "Making a fire pit, you know, for the fire." "Fire? You mean combustion? Uncontrolled chemical reaction that produces heat and light." All 3 of Pip's eyes blinked in sequence. "That is insane." "Raid. It is camping." Jake started gathering dry wood from the surrounding area, checking each piece with the casual expertise of someone who had done this 1,000 times. "Fire keeps you warm, cooks food, purifies water, and keeps predators away. Plus, it is nice. Calming." "Calming," Pip repeated weakly. Jake arranged the wood in a careful structure, then pulled out 2 sticks and a piece of bark. He started rubbing them together with practiced movements. "Oh no, oh no no no." Pip backed away. "You are creating fire through friction. That is barbaric. That is something our species did in the before times. Works though." Smoke began rising from the bark. Jake blew on it gently, and a small flame flickered to life. He transferred it to his kindling, and within minutes had a cheerful fire crackling away. Pip's datapad beeped frantically. "My probability calculator just gave you a 99.8% chance of death within the next 6 hours. Your calculator sucks." Jake pulled out a collapsible fishing rod from his backpack, attached a line, and walked toward the river that ran about 50 meters from camp. The river that, according to the briefing, had a pH of 3.2 and contained trace amounts of sulfuric acid. "That water will dissolve your skin," Pip shrieked. All 3 eyes fully extended in panic. Jake dipped his hand in, swished it around, and held it up. "Completely fine. It is mildly acidic, not battery acid. My skin is tougher than you think. Plus, the fish here have adapted to it, which means they are probably edible if cooked properly." He cast his line into the water. Within 5 minutes, he had caught something that looked like a fish, had angry relations with a porcupine. Jake held it up triumphantly. "Dinner. You cannot possibly know that is safe to eat." "Sure I can." Jake grabbed a purple leaf from a nearby plant, sniffed it, and took a small bite. He chewed thoughtfully, then spit it out. Bitter, numbing sensation on the tongue, but not toxic. Probably a natural pesticide. "Wouldn't eat it, but it won't kill you." He grabbed another plant, this one with orange berries, took a tiny bite. Slightly sweet. No immediate reaction. "Give it 20 minutes, see if there is any stomach discomfort. If not, it is probably fine." Pip was making notes on their datapad with shaking appendages. "You are taste testing alien flora. That is literally against 17 different safety regulations." "Yeah, but regulations were written by people who never went camping." Jake started cleaning the fish with a knife that looked older than some of the technology on the ship. "My grandfather taught me this. Small amount. Wait. Observe. If it is really toxic, you will know fast enough to treat it. If it just makes you queasy, you don't eat it. Simple." "Nothing about this is simple. You are violating every principle of xenobiology." "I am using the oldest principle of biology. Don't eat things that kill you." Jake skewered the fish on a stick and held it over the fire. "Works on every planet with carbon-based life." Back at the emergency shelter cluster, Zrin was watching his equipment malfunction for the 3rd time. The molecular food processor kept displaying error messages. The plasma barrier flickered and died, drained by the high humidity. Even the emergency beacon was acting weird, probably due to atmospheric interference. Meanwhile, smoke rose from Jake's campsite. Pip's tracker showed them alive, comfortable, and apparently cooking dinner over an open flame like some kind of primitive deity. "How is the human surviving better than us?" Shardex asked, their crystalline structure dimming with confusion. Zrin checked his datapad, which showed Jake's vital signs as optimal and his stress levels as lower than baseline. "I don't know," Zrin admitted, "but I think we have been doing this wrong." Through the forest, carried on the wind, came the sound of Jake explaining to Pip about that one camping trip in the Rockies where a bear got into the cooler. Pip's voice came back faint but clear. "You have bears on your planet? Plural? How are you not extinct?" "Oh, bears are fine. It is the moose you have to watch out for." Zrin and Shardex looked at each other. Without a word, they started packing up their malfunctioning equipment. If you can't beat the crazy human, you might as well join him. The sky turned a shade of green that no sky should ever be. Wind picked up with the kind of intensity that suggested the planet had personal grievances to settle. "Storm incoming," Jake said, casually securing his tarp with additional rope. "Big one, too." Pip checked their datapad, which was flashing warnings in 6 different languages. Category 5, Toxic Storm. Wind speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. Atmospheric sulfur concentration increasing. We need to get to the shelters immediately. This tarp will hold. It is a tarp. The storm hit like the universe's worst temper tantrum. Purple lightning cracked across the sky. Rain that was slightly more acidic than recommended came down in sheets. And the wind, oh, the wind had opinions. Back at the shelter cluster, those opinions were being expressed through interpretive destruction. Zrin's inflatable dome, rated for Class 7 conditions, deflated with a sad wheezing sound as a branch punctured it. Shardex's shield generator overloaded from the electromagnetic interference in the storm clouds. The molecular food processor simply gave up and displayed a message that translated roughly to, "I did not sign up for this." "Everyone to Thompson's camp," Zrin shouted over the howling wind, which was really more of a polite suggestion at this point since everyone was already running that direction. They arrived soaking wet, equipment sparking and failing, to find Jake calmly sitting under his tarp, feeding wood to his fire. The tarp held. The fire was going, and Jake was roasting his marshmallows. "Welcome," he said, gesturing to the dry space under the shelter. "Come on in. Fire's nice." 4 bedraggled alien cadets squeezed under the tarp, which somehow had room for all of them. The fire crackled cheerfully, completely unbothered by the apocalypse happening 3 meters away. "How is this working?" Shardex asked, their crystalline forms still smoking slightly from their shield overload. "Angle of the tarp sheds water. Trees provide a windbreak. Fire stays dry because of the overhang." Jake offered them sticks. "Plus, I tied the knots properly." "Marshmallow? What even is a marshmallow?" Zrin asked, accepting the white puffy thing with suspicion. "Sugar, gelatin, air. You roast it until it is golden brown. It is camping tradition." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the storm rage around them while staying perfectly dry and warm. Pip's datapad had stopped calculating Jake's death probability. The numbers had apparently given up. Jake stirred a pot that was hanging over the fire. "Made stew. It is that fish. Some of the safe plants I tested earlier. And purified river water. Should be ready soon." "You cannot be serious," Pip said weakly. "Try it." Jake ladled some into a borrowed container. Pip took a cautious sip, then another. "This is actually good. Camping food always tastes better. Something about being outdoors." Jake settled back against his pack. "You know, this reminds me of a trip I took in Australia. Outback camping, middle of nowhere. Storm rolled in, lost our tent. Had to shelter under a rock overhang for 2 days. That sounds terrible," Shardex said. "Best trip of my life. Saw 3 different species that could kill you. Avoided them all. Lived on fish and foraged plants." Jake smiled at the memory. "My buddy got chased by a cassowary, though. That was hilarious." "What is a cassowary?" 6-foot-tall bird with claws like knives. Territorial. Fast. Definitely not friendly. All 4 aliens stared at him. "You have murder birds on Earth?" Zrin's voice cracked. "Oh yeah. Australia has heaps of things trying to kill you. Spiders, snakes, jellyfish, octopi, plants, fish, birds. It is great." Pip was taking notes again, frantically. "Your planet is a death world." "Well, yeah. Class 1-2, I think. That is why camping is fun. You learn to read the environment, understand the dangers, and work with nature instead of against it." Jake poked the fire. "All your tech is great until it fails. Then what? But basic skills, fire, shelter, water, food, those work anywhere." Overhead, lightning struck a tree about 100 meters away. The crash made everyone jump except Jake, who just turned his marshmallow to toast the other side. From orbit, Commander Threk was watching the vital signs of all his cadets on his command screen. 4 were clustered around the human's position. All showed stable vital signs. Meanwhile, the billion-credit emergency shelters were registering as catastrophically failed. He pulled up Thompson's equipment manifest. 1 tarp, 50 meters of rope, a knife, a fire-starting kit, water purification tablets. And yes, there it was. Marshmallows. Threk's scales shifted to a color his species used when reconsidering deeply held beliefs about the universe. "Sir?" his second-in-command asked. "Should we initiate emergency extraction?" Threk watched Jake hand out bowls of stew to the other cadets, all of them huddled under a primitive tarp shelter, warm and dry and apparently having story time. "No," Threk said slowly. "I think we should start taking notes." The storm cleared by morning, leaving the forest steaming and everything smelling vaguely of sulfur. Jake's fire was still going. He was making something that looked suspiciously like pancakes. "How are you making pancakes?" Pip asked. All three eyes focused on the pan. Flour mix from my pack, water, little bit of that sweet berry paste. Heat, basic chemistry. Jake flipped one expertly. Want some? Before anyone could answer, Commander Threk's voice crackled over everyone's communicators. Attention, cadets. Final examination phase now commencing. The cadets exchanged nervous glances. Well, nervous for the aliens. Jake just kept cooking. You will now face the apex predator of Karzak 7, the Karzak Alpha Beast. Survival is mandatory. Lethal force is authorized. Good luck. The communicators went silent. He cannot be serious, Zrin said, his exoskeleton going pale. The Alpha Beast has a 95% kill rate. A roar echoed through the forest. Not the rumble from yesterday. This was deeper, louder, and came with the sound of trees being knocked over as a casual side effect of something very large moving through them. Weapons, Shardek said, their voice humming with panic. We need weapons. Thompson, where is your plasma rifle? Did not bring one. Too heavy. Jake plated his pancakes calmly. You did not bring a weapon to a death world. I brought a knife. That is a weapon. The trees ahead of them exploded outward as the Karzak Alpha Beast emerged. It was roughly the size of a cargo transport, covered in armored plates, with 6 legs, 4 eyes, and a mouth that could probably fit all 5 cadets at once. It looked like evolution had specifically designed it to ruin everyone's day. The cadets scrambled for their equipment. Zrin raised his plasma rifle with shaking arms. Shardex tried to activate their broken shield generator. Pip just stood there, calculating funeral arrangements. Jake picked up a bowl of the fish stew from last night. Walked forward. Slowly. Thompson, what are you doing? Pip shrieked. It is fine. Watch. Jake kept walking, bowl in hand, making soft clicking sounds with his tongue. The Alpha Beast's 4 eyes locked onto him. It lowered its massive head, growling, showing teeth that were probably classified as war crimes. Jake stopped about 10 meters away. Set the bowl on the ground. Stepped back. The beast sniffed the air. Took one cautious step forward. Then another. It lowered its head to the bowl and took a careful bite of the stew. Then it ate the entire bowl in 3 seconds. Jake pulled out another container from his pack. More stew. He set it down closer. The beast approached, less aggressive now, and ate that too. Most apex predators are opportunistic feeders, Jake said conversationally, like he was not standing next to something that could bite him in half. They will take easy food over a fight any day. Plus, this guy is probably curious. Intelligent species usually are. He reached out slowly and touched the beast's armored snout. It made a sound that was almost like a purr, if purrs were produced by creatures the size of small buildings. Good boy, Jake said, scratching under its chin. You are just a big scary puppy, are you not? Yes, you are. The beast sat down. Its tail, which had spikes that could probably penetrate hull plating, wagged. I am naming you Steve, Jake declared. In orbit, Commander Threk had stopped watching the tactical display. He was just staring at the video feed with all 4 hands covering his face. His second-in-command leaned over. Sir, the human just domesticated the apex predator. I can see that. Using leftover stew. I can see that too. Should we mark this as a successful completion of the exercise? Threk lowered his hands. His scales had shifted to a color that roughly translated to, I have given up on understanding the universe. Yes, full marks. And update the database. Add a note to Thompson's file. Proficient in improvised xenobiology and aggressive friendship protocols. Back on the surface, Jake was now sitting next to Steve, sharing pancakes, while the other 4 cadets stood in various states of shock. So, Jake said, offering Steve another pancake. Who wants a photo for the graduation ceremony? The extraction shuttle descended through Karzak 7's atmosphere with considerably less drama than the drop pods. Jake gave Steve one last scratch behind the armored plates before boarding. Stay out of trouble, buddy, and stop eating the other cadets' equipment. Steve made a sound that was part rumble, part whine, and entirely pitiful. His tail drooped. I know, I will miss you too. Back at the Galactic Academy, the graduation ceremony was significantly more crowded than usual. Word had spread about the human who camped on a Class 9 and made friends with the apex predator. Media drones floated everywhere. Commander Threk stood at the podium looking like he had aged several years in 72 hours. Cadets, he began, his voice carrying less certainty than it had 3 days ago. You have all passed the final examination with varying degrees of protocol adherence. He looked directly at Jake, who was sitting in the back row, still wearing his camping gear because he apparently hadn't bothered to change. Cadet Thompson receives special commendation for creative problem-solving. improvised survival techniques, and... Threk paused, checking his notes. Aggressive friendship protocols. Polite applause. Jake gave a small wave. After the ceremony, Pip found Jake in the corridor. All three eye stalks were focused intently on him. Thompson, I have a question. Shoot. In all your time on Earth, with all the dangerous creatures and environments, what was the deadliest thing you ever encountered? Jake thought for a moment, genuinely considering the question. Australian magpies during swooping season. Magpies. Those are birds, correct? Yep, black and white, about this big. Jake held his hands apart. Territorial during nesting season. They dive bomb you, go for the eyes, chase you for blocks. Absolutely relentless. Everyone in Australia has magpie trauma. Pip pulled out their datapad and looked up Australian magpies. All three eyes went wide, then wider, then physically recoiled from the screen. These are common? In residential areas? Near children? Oh yeah, everywhere. There are maps showing magpie attack hotspots. People wear helmets with spikes, cable ties sticking up, to stop them swooping. Your species, Pip's voice was barely a whisper, evolved alongside birds that attack your vulnerable optical organs as a recreational activity. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad. Pip closed their datapad very slowly. Thompson, it has been an honor surviving with you, but I am transferring to xenobotany. I will study plants. Nice, stationary, non-swooping plants. Fair enough. Good luck with that. Pip walked away, all three eye stalks occasionally glancing back like Jake might suddenly reveal another terrifying Earth fact. In his office, Commander Threk was updating the Academy database. His fingers, all four hands worth, moved across the holographic interface. Species: human, Homo sapiens, homeworld, Earth, Sol III. Classification update. Deathworld origin. Class 12. Survival instinct. Exceptional. Threat assessment. Friendly but concerning. Special notes. Approaches apex predators with food and confidence. Treats survival scenarios as recreational activities. Shows preference for primitive techniques over advanced technology. These techniques are surprisingly effective, possibly insane, definitely capable. Training protocol update. Human cadets no longer required to complete standard Deathworld survival course. They find it relaxing and throw off the curve for other species. Mandatory designation. Humans should be consulted for any Class 9 or higher survival situations. Bring your own marshmallows. Threk leaned back in his chair, all four arms crossed. Somewhere on Karzak 7, Steve the apex beast was probably napping in a sunny spot, dreaming of fish, stew, and chin scratches. The galaxy, Threk reflected, had gotten significantly more complicated since humans joined it. But at least they were friendly. Mostly. As long as you didn't mess with their camping trips.